Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
They're polite. I mean, they just take the time for you.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible.
I like the Angels for what they've done for me.
Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching. Thanks as always to our producer, Jeff Durall. We're at the City Commission chambers at City Hall in Hayes with the city manager for the City of Hayes, Toby Dougherty. Thought it might be a good idea here at the end of the year to review with the city manager some of the projects and events that have taken place through the city over this last year on Community Connection. Toby, if we could, let's start with the water issues and give us an update on where we are with water and the K9 Ranch situation, or
well,
the R9.
R9 Ranch.
I keep calling it K9 every time.
It's a mistake a lot of people make. It rolls off the tongue easier.
It really does.
Well, let's talk about our current water sources, and then we'll talk about the R9. Our current water sources, we are still in the midst of a 5-year drought. Our water sources have never fully recovered from the drought, especially the years of 2013, 12, 14, the really bad years of the drought. Our Smoky Hill River well field has recovered a little bit, but it is very quick to recover. It's also very quick to deplete. So with the Smoky Hill River well field, we are always 2 to 3 months away from being stressed in those wells. And we're there right now. And with the Big Creek well field, the Big Creek was significantly depleted over a 3-year period. And we received really no beneficial recharge in the Big Creek well field since then. The rains we've experienced have had a little bit of stabilizing effect, so it's not going down as much as it was before, but it's really not recovering. And I think if anybody goes through the Big Creek on campus, on Gustad Drive or Old 40, west of the Union, you'll see the creek dry, and it's rarely dry there. It's also dry at the Stepping Stones in Municipal Park and Frontier Park, and it's never dry there. And people tell me that all the time. It's never been dry at the Stepping Stones. Well, it's been dry for the most part for about 2 years now.
And that's kind of a warning sign.
Exactly, and that shows you that the subsoil moisture is just not there. It's not leaching out. R9 Ranch development, we are still in the regulatory process. There are 2 sets of applications that have to be filed. One we title change applications. They are changing the use from irrigation water rights to municipal water rights, and then changing the points of diversion where the water comes out of the ground, and then actually authorizing the quantities of how much can be pulled out of the ground. Those applications have been filed. The last application is the transfer application, and that is the application that applies to the state to move a volume of water in excess of 2,000 acre feet in excess of 35 miles to the Hayes and Russell area. And that transfer application is about 95% complete. We hope to have it filed by the end of the year. So hopefully at the next City Commission meeting, not tonight, but the next meeting, I will be able to give an update that the transfer application has been filed. We are just putting the finishing touches on it. At that point, it is entirely in the state's hands from a process standpoint. The Division of Water Resources, State Department of Agriculture, Division of Water Resources leads the way, and then there's also a 3-person panel convened to hear the water transfer application. So it's out of our hands. We will simply be reacting after that.
And still several hoops to jump through yet.
Yeah, there's still the way the Water Transfer Act is written in Kansas, when you're moving large quantities of water, there's a 3-person panel convened to hold hearings and to authorize the transfer. And the panel consists of the Secretary of the Department of Health and Environment, the head of the Kansas Water Office, and the Chief Engineer of the Division of Water Resources. And that process is outside of the change application process. So they kind of run concurrently, but they're a little bit mutually exclusive, but they do have a little bit to do with each other. So it's an interesting process once it gets rolling.
Well, 2015, Toby, saw some awareness, I think, and also some movement forward in sewer upgrade for the city of Hays.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time, probably the last, when I came here, the wastewater treatment facility was a huge topic of discussion internally. We knew we had an old facility. We knew standards were changing. We knew that discharge permits were going to be, the standards were going to be ratcheted down, tightened up, and we knew that it was highly unlikely our existing facility was going to meet those standards. They had been talking about this for 10 years before I came here in 2005. So we've spent a lot of time talking about the wastewater facility, and as we were looking at the wastewater facility itself, we started realizing that all this time and effort's been spent on facility. We haven't spent as much time worrying about the infrastructure we have buried in the ground. We have 140 miles of wastewater lines, collection lines. We have 1,500 manholes in the city of Hays for the wastewater collection system. One manhole can cost upwards of $60,000 to replace if we have to replace it. Wow. So think about that, 1,500 manholes. Think of the liability we have out there. 140 miles of sewer line at, in replacing a line in existing residential neighborhoods could be a couple $1 million a mile. So you can imagine the liability we have underground. And we haven't really spent a lot of money to repair and maintain the system. One, because these systems are designed to last a long time by nature. One, we are relatively new in our growth. Most of our, 84% of our growth has happened since 1950, and that includes our infrastructure growth. So we have a lot of buried infrastructure that is designed to last a long time, so what happens? You put it in the ground, you forget about it. Well, there comes a time when you start realizing we're having some problems, and that time is now. And that's when you take a serious look at your liability. And so along with the rate increase the City Commission passed to fund the new wastewater treatment facility, they included a small increase to fund capital projects, because that was the biggest issue in the wastewater system is we did not have a regular capital revenue to pay for these projects. When somebody paid their sewer bill, the money went to pay for the treatment of the sewage, and that was it. So if even if we were to identify $3 million in projects of lines that needed to be replaced, we didn't have the money to pay for it. Well, now the City Commission has a regular capital rate. So as people pay their bill, a certain portion of that is dedicated to capital repairs so we can keep the system viable going forward.
And this is really a long-term future look at continuing to upgrade the system, isn't it?
It is. It's also it is also the nature of public infrastructure and one of the pitfalls that I think all cities fall into at some point or the other. When you build a street, when you build a water line, when you build a sewer line, when you assume ownership of this infrastructure, it isn't just a matter of us building something. Let's say that Mike Cooper wants to develop a new housing development or a new commercial development. And as part of your development, you're going to put in 1 mile of streets and 2 miles of water lines and sewer lines and just give it to the city. You're going to pay for it. That's a great deal, right? Except for the fact that what happens is cities have had the habit of accepting this infrastructure and not really paying attention about what it costs to maintain it. And if you don't have regular revenues to maintain that infrastructure, or you don't have a system of capturing revenues that is tied to the development itself, then all you're doing is increasing your liability. So it would be like the average person in Hays, the average resident in Hays, it would be like somebody giving them 10 houses and saying, you can't sell them though. Well, at first it'd be great, I have 10 houses, but then eventually you're going to have to put siding on these houses and fix shingles and water leaks and mow the yard. You're going to realize, wow, these houses cost a lot of money to take care of, but you can't sell them. You have to keep them forever. And so that's what cities get into. And it's just, it's unfortunate for some, but it's very fortunate, I think, for us that myself and my staff have been willing to dig into the numbers and ask the tough questions and quantify a lot of this to realize what we should be setting aside. So now when Mike Cooper wants to develop a new retail development, we know what the liability is we're accepting. And we know what revenue we're going to have to capture to take care of that in future years. We're not just blindly accepting that. And I think we're going to be stronger as a city going forward.
Certainly putting funding in place to take care of some of those infrastructure improvements in the future then. And I got to tell you though, when we were visiting with the director of the wastewater treatment plant, Jeff and I were there to tour the plant and take a look at the actual process itself. That has certainly been a well-maintained facility. I mean, the crew there has just done an outstanding job. And like you say, regulations, changes in growth and such have really impacted it to where it just isn't feasible to continue to maintain it as it had been.
You know, we received, I think this was part of the presentation last month, but our wastewater treatment facility received the Plant of the Year this year. By the Kansas Department of Health and Environment.
I could believe that.
And, you know, it's interesting because if you're just a casual observer, you think, wait a minute, how are we getting Plant of the Year when we're in the process of building a new facility? And I likened it to, you know, if you see any reports from Havana, Cuba, you'll see these 1955 Chevy taxis driving all over the place, and they're having to fabricate parts because they can't import parts, and they're having to keep these old vehicles going. Yeah. And that's a little bit analogous to our situation. You know, we've got the old car out here and we're doing the best we can to keep it going, but it just will not meet the standards right now. So you're right, kudos to the guys that work out there. They do a wonderful job of keeping that going.
Review of the year 2015 for the city of Hayes, of course, would include street upgrades. Give us a kind of a progress report there, if you would, Toby.
We had a couple really big street upgrades this year. 41st Street was reconstructed. That was about a $3.8 million project, partially funded by KDOT. And that actually represents the last of our KDOT funding for street projects. We've been on a really good run of KDOT funding. And if you go back, pretty much Vine Street from 13th Street all the way to 55th Street has been paid for at some point in the past 15 years by 80% KDOT money. All of the reverse access roads, the system enhancement north of Vine Street, that was 80-20 money. 22nd Street was 80-20 money. Hall Street was 80-20 KDOT money. And so we've been on a really good run of KDOT money, but this 41st Street represents the last. That pool of money is gone, and we aren't depending on it in the future. That we've been told that the pool of money is gone. And so 41st Street was a $3.8 million project. 13th Street was just open. That was a reconstruction, and it was a $1.5 million project. It was actually a little over $2 million by the time you put in the stormwater infrastructure improvements we made. We took the opportunity, and people wonder why it took so long to do 13th Street. Well, we took the opportunity while we had the street out to replace the stormwater infrastructure underneath 13th Street, and that was a very challenging endeavor to replace stormwater infrastructure and still keep it viable while it rains and be able to maintain the flows. But 13th Street is open, it functions great. Everybody's very happy. We're very happy with the output.
Well, and if we do get one of those 6-inch rains, that's going to mediate that problem considerably.
It will help definitely. We've continued to spend a lot of money on street maintenance over the past few years. We've spent well over $1 million a year on street maintenance, and we are continuing to do that. So to the average resident, you'll see more crack sealing, you'll see more poly patches where they go in and they fill the really wide cracks in the road with a kind of a rubberized material. You'll see more chip sealing where they put the oil down and then they put the rock on top of that. That goes a long way towards prolonging the life of an asphalt street. You'll see a lot more concrete street repair. That's work that we typically do in-house. Main Street's a good example of that in front of City Hall and Serbs. We replaced some panels just here in the last few months. And just a lot of good projects going on to maintain our infrastructure.
Hey, City Manager Toby Dougherty, we're in the midst of a 2015 review for the City of Hayes, and we still have the improvements at the Hayes Regional Airport, the Hayes Municipal Park, and other issues with the City Manager, Toby Dougherty, our Community Connection.
Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
And the Angel Care nurse comes to see me once a week.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible.
Angel Care has helped to stay home.
Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
Our community connection from City Hall and the City Commission chambers with the Hays City Manager, Toby Dougherty. Our community connection. Thanks for watching. Thanks as always to our producer, Jeff Durall. We're in the City Commission chambers surrounded by some beautiful photography. Got to ask you the story behind the photographs that we see here on the walls of the Commission chambers, Toby.
Well, about 2.5, 3 years ago, we contacted Thomas Zimmerman, who had, at that time was a local photographer. He had a studio in town. I think he might have moved since then. And we asked Thomas if he would be willing to just take some pictures of the city. Different events, different festivals, sporting events, Wild West Festival, just different scenes, city facilities, parks, ball fields, things like that. And so we contracted with Mr. Zimmerman for a period of 2 years. And so he took pictures spring, summer, fall, winter, and we have thousands of pictures that are now the City of Hays' pictures. And we use them on our website, our promotional materials. The Convention and Visitors Bureau uses them quite heavily. We've used them on billboards along I-70 and I-135. And it was just a great endeavor for us. Thomas is a wonderful photographer, and he really brings out a lot of qualities in Hays. There's a few examples of where I've looked at his shots of a specific vision and just think I could never have envisioned that spot looking like that. So it's a testament to a great photographer.
Yeah, and if you're in the City Commission chambers at any time, you can see these beautiful photographs. They do bring out a remarkable panorama of the City of Hays, I think. Well, let's move to some of the 2015 review with airport improvements. How's the regional airport doing?
The airport's doing great. In 2015, we completed about a $1.6 million remodel of the terminal and expansion, not just a remodel, but an expansion. The terminal was built, I believe, in the late 70s, maybe 80, 81, something like that. But it was in need of some basic repairs. You know, the roof was having problems, the HVAC was having problems. It was an old building, you know, and it would function very well, but it just needed some of that maintenance that we talked about earlier. And the other issue is we're now getting service from passenger jets, 50 passenger regional jets. And our holding area for TSA was designed for 20 people because we used to have 19 passenger turboprop planes. And so we were faced with the dilemma of how do we handle a 19 passenger holding area with 50 passengers potentially on a jet. And so we also had no restrooms in the holding area too. So once you went through security, you were stuck there. If the plane was delayed for whatever reason, you had to go back out and go through security. So part of the remodel was an expansion of the existing terminal to provide for a holding area that holds 50 plus people with restrooms. We reconfigured TSA. We also reconfigured the reception area, the baggage claim area to make that more efficient because again, when you had at the most 19 passengers on a plane, the baggage collection could be handled by a very little area. Well, now you need a little more space for people to get in and get their baggage and get out. And so it just functions well. It was a great project. It was partially funded by the FAA. The rest of it's going to be funded by a passenger facilitation charge, which is a $4.50 charge per ticket for everybody that flies out of Hays. So it's the people utilizing the airport are the ones that are paying for it. So it was a great project. We're very happy with it.
And indeed turned out to be a beautiful facility too. Speaking of flying out, how are boarding numbers? How are we doing?
Boardings are increasing. We aren't at the level where I feel we should be, or we aren't at the level, I guess more accurately, that doesn't reflect the level of service we have at the airport. And I know there's been some bumps in the road or some turbulence in the air, to pardon the pun, but you know, we have a great service at the Hays Regional Airport. We have United Express, 50 passenger regional jets, 40 minutes to Denver, with a very comfortable jet, you know, with service, with restrooms. I mean, it's very, very, very good service. The prices are affordable. I know you're never going to, I'd say never, you're hardly ever going to be able to fly out of Hays at the same price you're going to fly directly out of Wichita or even sometimes Kansas City or Wichita. but the prices are extremely competitive. And so we're asking people, just check Hayes first, check the airport first. And if it doesn't work out for you, fine, but at least you checked it out. We have a great schedule. You can get almost anywhere in the United States in one day. You leave here in the morning, you can be there in early evening. Denver has so many nonstops. If you leave on the morning flight, if you really need to get someplace in one day on the East Coast, you can leave in that morning flight and you can catch a connecting flight nonstop out of Denver, and in most instances be along the eastern seaboard by 5, 6 o'clock at night. And to me, that is just great service out of Hays, Kansas, to be able to do that.
Now, do we still need boarding numbers to be able to qualify for FAA funding and such?
We need to. There's two ways we get our funding from FAA. We get a $150,000 guaranteed grant money if we don't achieve 10,000 boardings. And if we do achieve 10,000 boardings, we get $1 million guaranteed grant money. And this is money that we match at 10%. So for every $1 million the FAA gives us for projects at the airport, we have to put up $100,000. We have gone above and beyond that 10,000 boardings for a lot of years. Some years we're over, some years we're under. The last few years of Great Lakes, they were such bad service, we didn't achieve the 10,000 boardings. We were down in the 8,000 range, 8,500 range. When SkyWest took over with the United Express service, we were on track to blow through that 10,000 and actually head towards 15,000. Because of disruptions in the United system, they had to take away our overnight flight, which meant the plane left later. It caused some schedule issues for a couple months before it stabilized again. We lost some passengers, and so we actually started here, we went up here, and then we set ourselves back here, and now we're coming back up. SkyWest is aware of this, United's aware of this. They fully understand what's going on here. At where we're trending, we're not going to hit 10,000 this year, but we could hit 10,000 next year. And again, the service we have, we should be up over 15,000 if you wanted to truly reflect the service.
So continuing raising of awareness, I think, would certainly be important there, Toby.
Yes. And so that's our basic message. Just check Hays first. See if it works for you. If it doesn't, fine. But please just check the Hays Regional Airport first.
Well, this last year saw the arrival of a new assistant city manager.
Yeah, Jacob Wood started about a month ago. Jacob is a Kansas native. He grew up in Bennington and went to K-State. He was hired from the city of Oakley. He was a city administrator in Oakley for the past 3 years. Jacob is not only a graduate of K-State, he received his master's in public administration from K-State. He's an Army veteran. He served 2 tours in Afghanistan. He's a captain in the Army Army Reserves right now. He's a very accomplished guy. He worked in Salina after he got his master's degree, worked for Jason Gage, the city manager in Salina, and learned a lot from him before going out on his own in Oakley. And as somebody who's managed a small town like Oakley, it's you feel a little bit of an affinity for somebody who's been through that, because it's a lot different than what we do here. And it's just I think all managers at some point should manage a small town. It's a great learning experience, and you really have your opportunity to just learn all aspects of managing a city. So we welcomed Jacob here about a month ago. He's getting moved into town and excited about it, and he's hit the ground running. He'll do a great job.
Well, tell us what kind of duties the assistant city manager will be responsible for.
Anything I don't want to do, pretty much, yeah.
Anything I can direct, right?
No, the assistant manager is he's an operations manager typically, or the position is typically an operations manager. I try to balance the commissioners and the public and the departments, and sometimes that doesn't leave me a lot of time for specific operational stuff, and so the assistant can serve as kind of that operation manager. Liaison to different areas outside of the city. The assistant city manager typically attends like the DHTC meetings and some other things like that. Is very, very much involved in the operational aspect of what goes on here, and can dig deeper into special projects that maybe I would love to, but just don't have the time. So, we have let's say the top 5 pressing issues going on, and the assistant can get a little deeper than I can into those issues, and that way I have full confidence that we're getting as deep as we need to, but I don't have to do it. And so it's having a good assistant complements me, because if our relationship's working right, we aren't duplicating efforts. We have a little bit in common, but we're also doing our own thing, and so that's when we work well together.
A couple of things before we close out this segment of Community Connection, Toby. The USD 489 Board of Education is proposing a bond issue. They would like to have the city join in that effort with a half-cent sales tax, I believe. Where are we in that particular situation?
We are waiting to see the official request from the 489, but we have met with them. City staff has met with Dean Catt and his group. What they are asking for, the school districts have the ability to place a bond, a property tax bond issue on the ballot. They can do that themselves. The school board can make a motion, approve that, and have it put on the ballot. They cannot do that with sales tax questions. Only the city or the county governing bodies can actually place sales tax questions on the ballot. So what they're asking the city commission for is to place a sales tax question on the ballot. The city commission would have to craft an ordinance and approve an ordinance authorizing a sales tax question on the ballot, and then the terms of the sales tax would be spelled out in that question. I haven't seen what the terms they're going to ask for, whether it's a quarter cent, a half cent, three-quarter cent, as far as term, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I don't know that. But the school district needs the city commission as that vehicle to place that on the ballot.
But as I understand it, with the addition of that sales tax, whatever amount it might be, that would help to reduce the need for a property tax burden, I guess, if you would.
Yeah, that's the reason why they're looking at this, is because they have estimated a certain amount of property tax increase to pay for all of the improvements via property tax bond, and almost half of that needed if you could pay for part of it with the sales tax. That was the initial numbers we saw from them. So you're right, it's keeping the property taxes lower is the reason why they're asking for it.
And the Hayes Municipal Water Park, city has an investment in that on a yearly basis, Toby.
Yeah, the Hayes Rec Commission operates the Hayes Aquatic Park for us and the Bickle-Smith Sports Complex. And we have a contract with them for the pool that if there is an operating loss, that we will split the losses with them 50-50. This year there was an operating loss of a little over $30,000, so the City Commission will be taking action tonight to approve the expenditure of the operating loss. The Hayes Aquatic Park, Roger Bixman and Grant Macy, they do a great job of running the aquatic park. It's something we get compliments most of the time, 99% of the time. Rarely do we get complaints about the aquatic park, and that's a testament to the way they run it. The City Commission has talked for years, about every 3 years they talk about rates, and they purposely keep the rates low there to make sure it's accessible to all residents of Hayes. And they could probably raise rates and cover that shortfall if they wanted to, but would it be accessible to everybody? That's the question. So they have erred on the side of, you know what, we will go ahead and pay the operating loss if we have to make sure that the Hayes Aquatic Park stays accessible, because it is a public amenity for Hayes residents, and they want to keep it a public amenity for Hayes residents.
And it's always weather related too. If the pool isn't open because of weather conditions, you just can't attract people and bring up those numbers then.
Yeah, this year the attendance was down a little bit, and a lot of it was due to weather. Earlier in the year we had some rain, and in the prime pool season when everybody's ready to get out and get to the pool, we had some cooler weather, some rainy weather, and so it wasn't, I mean, that's the good part of drought years, is it doesn't rain and it's sunny and it's hot, and so the pool does really great on those years, but the rest of the community suffers.
I got to say in our final moment here, and I'm going to give you a chance too to send holiday greetings too to the community through the city manager's office, but I wanted to say to you, thanks specifically, and also to the city staff, the department heads, city employees, and all those part-time people that are employed by the city of Hayes. All of the work and effort that goes in through a year to make this a livable community and a wonderful community to be in. And just as a citizen, and I think I'd probably speak for Jeff, if he could talk and come out in front of the camera, he'd probably say the same thing. We appreciate all the effort the city staff does to make this a great place, Toby.
Well, thank you.
Now, your turn.
We have a great group of employees at the City of Hayes. They are dedicated. They are tenured. A lot of them are locals, and I think it's just a testament to the organization. But we're reflective of the community. Hayes is a great place to live. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else right now. Hayes is a wonderful place to live. There's a lot of great people here. We have a lot going on. And so I would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas that's watching.
Hayes City Manager Toby Dougherty, our Community Connection. Thanks for watching.
Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
And the Angel Care nurse comes to see me once a week.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible.
Angel Care has helped to stay home.
Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.